Welcome to The Pilot Life, the show where we sit down with people who are passionate about aviation. My name is Brendan. I've been a commercial airline pilot for over 20 years, and in that time, I've heard some incredible stories. This is the show that I share those with you. Welcome on board. Here we are, Pilot Lifers. Welcome back. Another living room. Well, this isn't really the living room. Larry, this living room of yours is majestic. Opulent. No, we are at the Hampton. It's only fitting, right? We're at the Hampton Inn and Suites.
Comes full circle.
So nice of the Hampton to offer up their Cosmo room to us to do this podcast. You may recognize the person sitting across from me. This is Captain Larry Packer, of course. So many people watched the episode with you.
Amazing.
Talking about your life, your time with the Blues, and a common theme that came up over and over again was the impact that Around the World the Speed of Sound had.
Really?
Yes. This was a documentary that was made for the 92 season and was released in 1994. So this is the 30-year anniversary of the release of the documentary Around the World at the Speed of Sound.
You want to know something interesting about that?
What's that?
So, they had the new Blue Angel thing come out on Amazon Prime and IMAX. Well, the executive producers is Greg Wooldridge, who was the boss on that.
Really?
With me. He was my boss. And the other executive producer is a person named Rob Stone, who produced that. And so they stayed friends for 30 years. And they came up with the idea of we need to put this out again and make a new movie. And so those two, they got all the backing, they did all the work on it. And so, they've done really good work.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to see that new one?
Yeah.
Did you see it in IMAX?
No, I didn't get a chance to see it in IMAX, but I saw it on Prime.
Yeah. That was incredible, wasn't it?
I don't see how they do that stuff.
But you know what I was thinking, because I went back and I watched this as I prepared for this, and I thought the only thing that's really changed is the quality of the video. Obviously now they can film these airplanes flying in 200 frames per second and all kinds of HD 4K cameras. The story of your guys' documentary was incredible. They
took it and they digitized it so it's in what is it, 4D, 4K?
Yes.
4K. So it's good video quality, better than when it came out on VHS in 94 is when it came out. It was filmed in 92. But I like it because it didn't age. Like you could watch it and still relevant.
Yeah.
I like that about that.
Well, the first time we talked for about 3 hours.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And we got that edited down to about an hour.
You did a great job.
About an hour and a half. But after we talked, there were so many questions about this documentary, and I called you and you said, I've got a lot of stories about that time. And I said, well, A, I'm super excited to hear that, and B, I think that we should probably share that because I know a lot of people would love to get a little bit of the behind the scenes here. But so if someone is just watching this and they want to know about your journey, they can go back and watch that first episode, which kind of talked about how you became a Blue Angel. This is just going to focus on why they made the documentary and kind of how that all happened. So maybe we can kind of go back to that time, and this was in the early 90s.
Yeah, it was in 92 was my first year on the team. I think in 90 at the Rose Festival in Portland, they had Su-27s come to America for the first time, and they performed at an air show. And the boss of the Blue Angels at that time, a great guy, Captain Pat Moneymaker, became an admiral. He was the boss of the Blues in 90, and they gave him a ride in an Su-27. I mean, probably one of the first two guys from the Western Hemisphere to ride in a MiG or an a Sukhoi. And so somebody from that started thinking, man, we could do something with this because, in 89, glasnost started happening, perestroika, all that stuff where the world started opening up and the Soviet Union collapsed and And so there were some opportunities that some forward-thinking people started taking to heart. And so somewhere in between 90 and 92, they figured out, hey, why don't we send the Blues? And they said, we'll send these guys on a European tour for 5 weeks with the capstone of this thing being this Russia, supposed to be like a pilot-to-pilot exchange, friendly thing. That's how it all came about.
So when you train in the military and you're training against certain countries, like you're learning fighting tactics against certain countries, right?
Yeah, something that people don't realize when you fly fighters, you have probably a master's degree level exam every week because there's so much tactics, systems, weapons. You have to know all of your stuff. You have to know your aircraft. You get tested on that. You have to know your weapon systems. You get tested on that. You have to know all your tactics. You have to know all that. Well, you have to know your adversaries too. And you have to know them as well as you know your own aircraft. And so you're always studying. Yeah. Always studying adversary tactics. And at that time, it was mostly Soviet Union, or what in 91, 92, we would call them former Soviet Union tactics. And so when they say, hey, you're going to go over there and do an air show in Russia, now they didn't say you're going to go fly Russian airplanes. No, nobody knows what was going to transpire. Right. They were hopeful, but of course you don't know. I'm looking at these are the guys that I'd been training against for my entire career. And now we're going over there to do an air show for them.
Yeah, crazy,
so
right?
It's nutty. Nutty.
Let's talk about each of the people on the team that are featured as the flying pilots here.
Okay, number one from Springfield, Illinois, is Captain Greg Woldridge. He got into the Navy. He was like 10 years ahead of all of us. The boss is a person that not only was a fleet aviator flying tactical jets, but he also went on to become a commanding officer of an F-14 squadron, an F-18 squadron, A-7, A-6s, whatever. He did all that, and then he gets selected. His selection is a little bit different from the others because he's selected by a panel of former Blue Angel bosses and admirals. And so they bring these guys in and they do their thing. The interview process, I don't know the questions they ask them or anything, but in the new Blue Angel film that comes out, that's out on Amazon, they kind of show that where they're going into the room, these bosses, right. And then they pick the boss out of them. Greg was probably my closest friend on the team, just simply because the number one pilot trains the number two pilot, and the number two pilot trains the new number one pilot. And so we spent a lot of time, just he and I, talking, about all the things that go into flying the lead airplane of the Blues.
So was this his first year?
No, it was his second.
His second and your first. So he was training you.
So he was training me. Yeah. Then you have me. I'm from Walnut, California, which is out near Pomona, West Covina, Diamond Bar, kind of closer to Ontario Airport than LAX. From the San Gabriel Valley, I went through San Diego State, got into the Navy, flew, and then I'd been flying for about 10 years. So at that time, when that picture was taken, I was 32 years old. I was married. I had two young kids, one that had just been born. Number 3 pilot is Doug Thompson. His call sign is Dino. Look at the size of that guy. Yeah. So his call sign was Dino, which is short for dinosaur. Big body, little brain. Okay? Because, as we all know, in the military, cruelty is our most important product. So they're going to give you a call sign that you really don't want. Right. Okay? If they can.
Right.
Okay? So he's from Liberty, Missouri, just a great country guy, and he went through Southeast Missouri State, played football there, then got his commission through AOCS. So he did basically the exact same thing I did. He was like, I think he was 1 year junior to me. So I was year group 82. He was 83, I believe. We actually cruised twice together on the USS Saratoga. He was a A-7 pilot, then went on to become an F-18 pilot. So I knew him very well. Number 4, Pat Irish Rainey. And Irish was the slot pilot, so he was the safety observer in the formation. And so he was the one that Dino and I would always be getting grief from in the debrief. And his job was, you're too close, you're too far away, you're not solid, you're moving around too. He was the criticizer.
Yeah.
So very, very important job. And the reason he's the safety observer is because he can look through the HUD and see the boss's parameters on each of the maneuvers because he's right under his fuselage. And I mean right under. If you look at the number 4 jet on the flight line, the tail is dirty always. It's almost not black, but it's covered in soot, because his vertical stabilizer is in the boss's exhaust almost the entire flight.
I was going to ask you this because when the 4 ship takes off, number 4 instantly does this move.
Yeah, how'd you like to do that?
What are you?
5 feet off the ground.
What is the 4? What is that control input that the 4 is doing?
He's putting in left rudder. He's on the outside of number 2.
Okay.
So he puts in left rudder and he rolls the right wing down so that he just gets pure lateral motion. So what they're looking for in the olden days of the A4 and F4 and that era, when number 4 would make that move to the slot position, he would do this and then come over real quick, and then it evolved, like all the stuff evolves.
Yeah.
Half the stuff on the new Blue Angel stuff, I don't know what they're doing.
Right.
I'm looking at it going, oh my gosh, it's just amazing. But they, somewhere along the line, they decided, hey, we want to make it a smooth transition. So it just kind of flows in there. And they also found out that if they do that, they can make that maneuver a little lower to the ground, if you can believe it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's low.
It's incredible.
And when he goes under number 2 to get into position, it actually lifts the rear end of the number 2 jet up, and then it comes back down. So I can feel him moving over into that slot position.
Yeah. Incredible.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, so amazing. All right, so number 5 there.
Number 5 is John Gucci Foley.
Glad to be here.
Glad to be here. Yeah, you've seen his stuff. Yeah,
it's incredible job.
He's probably one of the top 5 motivational speakers in America.
Yeah.
He's really made a good living for himself. He does an amazing job. So he was a Naval Academy graduate, flew Hornets the entire time. He's what's called a Hornet baby because in my time, the Hornet was new. It was brand new. So they had guys that went from the A7 or the A6 or the F-14 into the Hornet, but they had some guys that were Hornet babies. You'd call them plank owners on a ship. The very first guys to man a ship, they own a plank on that ship.
And he was one of the solos.
He was the
lead solo.
Lead solo in that. He was number 5. And then the number 6 is Ken Switzer Thumper. He's from Great Falls, Montana, and he went through the Naval Academy as well. His call sign was Thumper because he was a Golden Glove NCAA boxing champion. You get a kid from Montana that knows how to fight. Yeah, you push him to the front. Just a great guy. Interesting thing about Ken, he went on to become the commanding general of the Montana Air National Guard. So he kind of took my route where he got out of the Marine Corps, and he was the only Marine on the demo team. All the other knuckleheads you see there are all Navy guys. But he was our Marine representative, and then he got out of the Marines and went into the Air National Guard and went on to command it.
Wow.
Yeah, just a great guy. All of them, just super, super great guys.
Yeah.
Memories. What we're trying to do is, with the way the world's coming out now, a lot of good things are happening all over the countries over there and over here, and I think that it's going to be a neat opportunity to show the people what the American military has to offer. Yeah.
So what was the feeling as you guys, what was your guys' first stop there?
Our first stop, we left Loring Air Force Base, Maine, about 3 a.m. in a driving rainstorm. We had what are called poopy suits on. It's pitch black, thunderstorms, lightning, the whole thing.
Wow.
And we took off, and our first stop was Tullinge, Sweden. And I think it was like a 9.5-hour flight.
Wow.
In an F-18.
What is your...
Flight of 6.
Yeah.
Or no, it was a flight of 8. Because what they did was they didn't know if we were going to do this kind of thing again. Like, hey, if it goes so well, we may do it the next year or the next year or the next year. And we were going to have a new boss that had already been selected. One of the greatest guys I've ever met in my life is a man named Bob Stumpf. He led the first strike into Iraq in the first Desert Storm in an F-18. He was just a great guy, and he had already been selected as the new boss. And so what they did was, and we had a new number 8. We took them along.
Okay.
And so we had 8 jets. And so we had the 6 straight jets, and then we had the 2 family trucksters that had the seat in the back. And so we had 4 airplanes on 2 KC-10 tankers. And so we launch at 3 o'clock in the morning, and we go meet these guys in the clouds somewhere. And for the next 8 hours of this 9.5-hour flight, it was probably the most dense clouds I've ever been flying through. You could not get more than probably 2 feet away from the tanker. Otherwise, you would lose sight of him. And if you lost sight, you had to go divert to St. John's, Newfoundland, or who knows where, somewhere in Greenland, I don't know. Where they had spots all along, and Keflavik, Iceland. And so you just, for 8 hours, you couldn't take a sip of water, you couldn't.
It's a stressful flight.
It was, yeah, but you're a Navy pilot.
This is a really stupid question. Do you guys have autopilots?
They do have autopilots. It's not like our autopilot. It won't follow the thing around. It won't follow a thing. It may now. I mean, it's been 20 years since I've been retired. It's been 30 years since I've been in the Navy. But it would hold. It was like control wheel steering.
It's like a very basic axis hold or something, pitch and roll. And
yeah, it's like CWS, CWP. Yeah. That's what the Hornet was. A fighter, you fly.
Yeah.
You don't. Unless you're doing a ACLS, automatic carrier landing system.
Yeah.
And then it'll land the airplane for you on the carrier, which is quite exciting, when you're not touching the controls coming aboard a ship. But it does it very well. And so you had to keep your qual up on that. But anyway, so we fly the 9.5 hours to Tullinge, Sweden, and then we get there. We get there after just brutal conditions. Again, I'm not exaggerating. I've never flown in weather this bad, and then for that long. And then you were just tired, and you're in a dry suit. And the Navy dry suit in those days, I don't know what they're like now, are not like the commercial dry suits that you see on National Geographic Explorer or whatever, with the diagonal zipper. The zipper went from here all the way across, and it just rubbed your armpits raw. I mean, it was a very uncomfortable thing, and so you just toughed it out. But you get there, and we're all like, okay, we see land, because when we broke out of the clouds after 8 hours, it was clear in a bazillion. I mean, it was a beautiful day. And so as we're getting ready to come into Sweden, we get our final tanking. We actually tanked 13 times going across the Atlantic.
Dang.
Because the Air Force had a rule that you had to be topped off enough to make it to 2 separate divert fields because the weather was crappy the whole time there. Pardon my French. So
you are refueling not because the aircraft is running low, but because you need to maintain adequate resources.
Yeah. So you have the tanker, and you'd have 2 airplanes on each wing. And so, I would go in and get my gas, which would only take, a minute or 2 because you'd plug in, and it's a plug, not, where you have a probe and you put it into the basket. So it's not like the Air Force where you fly formation and then the boom operator, plugs you. But anyway, so you put it into the basket, you get your gas, and you may only get 1,000 pounds and get topped off. And then you would move out to the end. You'd crawl down the wing, do an underrun of the other airplane. And while you're doing that, one of the airplanes on the other side would come in and get his gas. And then when he's done, he'd do the same thing. And then the other guy would move in, go back. The fourth and last guy would get his gas and move out. And then it was time for me to get my gas again.
Because for people who don't know that, 1,000 pounds is about 150 gallons.
Exactly, 150.
So you're going off, you're going to burn 150 gallons in 15 minutes maybe, and then it's time to go back up and get your next.
And so in the flight, when you still have diverts near the coast, you're not getting gas as often. But when you're in the middle of the ocean, then you're just doing this constant, very fatiguing too, especially when it's in the weather and it's dark and the sun started coming out, so it would become gray, not black, but it was... that was a brutal day. And so we end up coming in, and we can see Stockholm, and the boss goes, all right, so, we're ready to land. Boss goes, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to join up. We're going to do a couple of flybys of downtown Stockholm. And we're all like, you don't say anything. You just go, yes, sir.
Yeah.
But we're all thinking.
I've been in this suit a long time.
Yeah. I have to go pee-pee.
Yeah.
And so, we come in and we do our thing and then come around and then we fly over to Tulinga and land and then there's reporters and people and, you're still in your dry suit, you're trying to get out of it and they're asking you questions, they're interviewing you and, and you're, there it is. I mean, I've got jaundice.
So how bad do you have to go to the bathroom?
So bad. Did you see? I don't stop moving.
Maybe this is the additional 30 minutes of behind the scenes footage. This is what it is.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
But
you
it was
just
really
go
neat.
in your suit.
No, we're not Apollo 13. That's disgusting. Come on, I'm an educated man.
So then you're signing autographs.
That's at the show.
Oh,
That's
it is.
not
Okay.
same day.
Okay.
This is edited at the show. So that's the fly-in. And if you'll notice, that's not our normal Blue Angel flight suit. That's a fleet blue suit. See how everything's different? Mm-hmm. It doesn't have the stripes. It's not super tight. It's a regular flight suit, which,
obviously
I still have that one.
You're wearing the dry suit because if you were to have to eject, you're going to be over the North Atlantic somewhere waiting for someone to come and get you.
You're dead. It's going to give you probably an extra half hour of life. The whole name of the game, if you get out of the airplane, you have to get out of the water and get into a raft. So if you're injured in any way, flail damage or something like that from an ejection, you're not going to make it.
That's an interesting question. So what type of emergency equipment is attached to that seat or to that chute if you were to have to eject?
Got everything.
You got rafts and
you got a raft and it's all in the seat pan. You go out it's a rocket. There's two types of ejection seats. You have ballistic, and then you have rocket powered.
Yeah.
Rocket is a little bit more smooth. And just so people know, it's not like you're sitting in a lounge chair.
Yeah.
You're sitting on an orange crate, because the rate of speed that the seat attains within about a half of a second is such that if you had any cushion between your leg and the seat, the momentum would snap your femur in half. And so you have to be a part of the seat as it goes up. So the cushion is like that. So it's not the most comfortable thing.
Yeah.
But I guess it's probably like the Tour de France guys. You get used to how the seat is.
Yeah.
Because I can't sit on one of those bikes for more than probably a minute and a half.
Right.
When I have to get off.
Right. So you do this 9.5 hour flight to Sweden. You get off. Everyone's excited. The blues are here. You guys all would love a little potty break at some point here.
Potty break, big time. Yeah.
Would be good. And then how does the show go there?
So the way it worked, I found this really, really interesting, because since it was our first show, and we didn't know, obviously nobody had done an air show in Sweden before. We had no corporate knowledge of what transpires. And the Swedes, they were hyper ready, meaning, we did interviews and we talked to the media, and then at some point somebody came and corralled us, and they took us into the movie theater. And I remember, we didn't really know what was going on, but the head person of the air show said, I want to introduce all the main people that you'll see, all the department heads for what's going on. And the most interesting one to me was when he introduced whoever was the security officer in charge of security for us. And this person stood up and addressed us and said, we're really happy to have you here. And I have to let you know that each one of you pilots, you will have a security detail that is attached to you, and you will never see them. They're going to be covert, and they're going to follow you around, and they're going to watch everything that you do. And we're all like, well, why? We're not criminals. And he said, this is not to prevent you from doing anything. They are there for your safety. But you have to understand that there are credible threats out there that people want to have this not go good. And so let's say you go in to a shop and you, not that this would happen, but you take something without paying for it, and the shopkeeper comes out after you and makes a threatening gesture, that person is going to be put down. And so I was like, you got to be kidding me. And so when we were doing the show there, they actually had a shooter in the hills around the air show that they had to arrest. The guy had a rifle. They don't know what he was doing. I mean, I never found out, but they actually, had a guy going to take a pot shot at an airplane or something like that. So they're really, really on top of everything. Whereas we went and we're like, it's an air show.
Right.
It's going to be great fun.
Right.
They took it deadly serious.
Yeah.
Deadly serious.
Well, in this movie, it talks about the glitz and the glamour and the blues and the maneuvers and the crowds and all that stuff. But the world in 1990 or 1992, I mean, it was separated east and west.
Still,
in that eastern bloc, it had just kind of fallen like in 89 or 90.
89.
So it's
all that.
easy to forget that, right?
Yeah, and we were all highly trained fighter guys,
right.
Very aware. And in every community, you always have threat briefs. What's going on in the world, where's the next threat that we can foresee, and so that you can train to it. And so we're still training with those guys. I want to know what happened to that guy. Golly.
You?
Yeah.
Look at that guy.
What happened to
strapping.
that dude?
So you're signing autographs there for the crowd.
How are you?
Yeah.
You speak English? I don't speak Swedish, sorry. Talk.
So talk means thank you. That was all I knew. Should have seen
Oh,
that
it
kid's
does?
face light up. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, talk.
I thought you were telling him like say something.
No.
Because he's just there. He's just eyes big, like
it's
oh my
just-
gosh,
yeah.
incredible.
You know, one thing I used to do with the crowd line, you go to the crowd line after every show,
Yeah.
after every practice, after every show, if there's people out there. And I noticed a common theme throughout. One of the questions I would get a lot was, is it really you flying the airplane? Well, I thought about that for quite a while, and I came to the realization that when you're in that Blue Angel flight suit and you're doing these maneuvers and they're so precise and all that kind of stuff, that people have a hard time placing a human into it. And so one of the things that I always did was, we always had our sunglasses on. I always took mine off at the crowd line, because when somebody asked me a question, and you got to remember, there would be sometimes 3,000 or 4,000 people that are pushed up against the snow fence and trying to touch you, trying to ask you questions, or get you to sign something, and you can't sign them all. They only give you like 20, 30 minutes to do that kind of stuff. And so I would always take off my sunglasses, and when somebody would ask a question that I was going to answer, I would look them in the eye, so that they knew that I was talking to them. It makes it more human. The other thing I would always see is somebody would be trying to take a picture of me, and it's the funniest thing. Instead of just going, "Hey, smile," "Hey, Larry," look. They're always taking the picture like this. They got their camera out, and
Yeah.
like I'm some kind of national treasure that if they are caught, they'd be arrested. And so I'd see it out of the corner of my eye. I'd see somebody doing this, and I'd always go, "You cannot take that picture." And you'd see them just like, eyes go big, they'd go rigid, and I'd go, "The only way you're going to take that picture is if somebody's in it with me." And they would throw a baby over the snow fence at me. Ladies that would be like 75, they'd jump over that thing like they were an Olympic high jumper,
Yeah.
because it made it real,
Yeah.
And so I did stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's what I do there. That was just my style.
That was one of my most favorite ones. So this was from your show in Italy.
Yeah, in Sigonella, Sicily.
So did you guys go to Italy after?
So we went to highly edited. We went to because of course when they put this thing together, they wanted to build up to the big impact thing. So
Right.
we started out in Sweden, Finland, Turku, Finland. Beautiful place. Then we went to Sigonella, and then we went to Plovdiv, Bulgaria. Then we went to Bucharest, Romania. Then we went to Moscow, Doncaster, England.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went to Barcelona, Spain.
So what was kind of the overall feel at the majority of these when you would show up? Was it
Well, it depended whether it was Eastern Bloc country
Yeah.
or a Western NATO ally country. When we went to Bucharest, Romania, for instance, never forget this. We came in, we landed at Bucharest Airport, the main airport, get out of the jets, we do the salute, we do the walk down the salute, and then we start walking towards the crowd, of which there was a great number of people. And they had these rope, stanchions with ropes set up. I think they were like those velvet ropes you see at a movie theater. And the people were all behind it. As soon as we started walking towards it, those things went down. And then they came right up to us. Well, the president of the country was there, The Air Force Chief of Staff of the Romanian Air Force was there. There were quite a few dignitaries, and I'll never forget. We shook hands with all of them, and when the Air Force Chief of Staff for the Romanian Air Force stepped up to the boss and shook his hands, he was crying, and he said, "Americans, we've waited 50 years for you." And I was like, whoa, that's huge. That was World War II stuff. And these guys, they were under the yoke of the Soviet Union for a long time, and they had just come out of it.
Yeah.
They had Ceausescu and all that stuff going on, and they were emotional. It was crazy. The other thing that was wild about the Romanian show is that we did a one-day show on a Tuesday. So they go, in Romania at that time, if you didn't work that day, you didn't eat that day. So they said, you'll probably see about 2,000 people here. If there's 35 people here, we'll still do a show. And so when the show day came around, we show up at the field, and there's something like probably 1 million folks there. Just absolutely chaos. They were not ready. We came in and we're doing our debrief, and boss said, "There's no way we're doing a crowd line. They can't cover this. We're not. It's not safe for us." And the air show was like, "You got to. I mean, these people, they want to see you, and show their appreciation and all that, which is great." And so they said, "Well, we need to figure out how to make it work." And so they said, "Well, they had the military there. They said, "Well, we'll send a military detachment of 4 or 5 guys with each pilot to their spot in the crowd line." And I'll never forget, I got out of the van, I go to the fence to sign autographs, and within about 4 or 5 seconds, I'm surrounded. I mean, as the fence comes down, and just had to be 20,000 people pressing against me. I thought, if I go down here, I'm dead. I'm going to be trampled to death. It was unbelievable. And the only way that they got us out of there, they actually had some more Army guys from Romania. Man, they came in with rifles pushing people out of the way, and I remember somebody grabbed me, some big guy, in a uniform. He grabbed me, pulled me out of the crowd. Now, they were not hostile, but it was just uncontrolled.
Right.
Never seen anything like that. Never experienced anything like that. It was scary. But they couldn't get enough.
Yeah.
Could not get enough. It was amazing.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was the general. I wrote that down.
That's the Bulgarian general. Yep.
What's your thought when you see someone's face like that in the back of a fighter jet?
Oh my gosh! To bring somebody into your world that's such a closed world, especially someone like him who, I don't know how many hours he would have had, but he was a MiG-21 pilot. He didn't fly anymore because he was the commanding general. But you could see just on his face, man, he's reliving his youth. I mean, it's how I would be if they put me in the back seat of a jet right now. Oh my gosh, Lord, take me. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I'm honored to be able to stand in front of children or kids or youth or whatever and say, look, there are some things that are worth 100% effort, and I really believe that what I do is worth all the sacrifices that we make for being away from home and all that. And it's nice to be able to be somebody that kids can look up to. I really enjoy that.
Gonna make me cry.
So you, at this point, 32, with 2 young kids, right? A baby. And I know that we've talked about the sacrifice, right? The sacrifice that probably anyone on the team makes
Yeah. One of the questions I would get a lot, almost every time I would be doing a talk at a high school or a junior high or something, do you get extra money for being a Blue Angel? You don't get an extra dime, nothing.
Yeah.
But I would always answer it by going, no, I don't make any extra money doing it. But, there are some things in life that are worth far more than money.
Yeah. Did it feel different when you were visiting kids in a hospital in Bulgaria or Russia versus visiting kids in the U.S. or any of the other countries?
No, they just would light up. God, it was so hard because you'd go in and you'd spend time with them and all that stuff, and then you'd go out of the room and you'd fall apart, get yourself together, then you go to the next room.
Yeah.
Yeah, this part's hard for me.
You guys aren't just flying these jets. You're doing real solid work.
Well, that's what made it worthwhile.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Every Friday, when you get to a show, every Friday you actually, 3 of the pilots would go to high schools and hospitals, and they would rotate through. But I loved doing it. And so I always told number 8, who set that stuff up, I told him, if my family isn't at the show, I want to be one of the guys. Because a lot of times, it wears on you.
Yeah.
And you already are, your time is not your own. And so I did it to give the other guys a break. They could sleep in on a Friday. Not that they did. You woke up early anyways and went go work out. But I just, that's what I liked about it. I really enjoyed talking to the kids.
Yeah. I think this is coming into Russia now.
Yeah, Russia.
I'll never forget when we get out of the planes in Moscow and just mobbed by all the
Oh my
all the
gosh.
children. That was
So that was on the ramp in Moscow?
Yeah.
So let's talk about first flying into Moscow, because I know that you guys were joined up by some of their fighter jets to escort.
Yeah, Su-27s and MiG-29s. And we didn't know that they were going to do it. But here you have these.
Wait, you can't just skip over that. You didn't know that they were going to join up on you.
No, had no idea.
So what's going through your mind? Did you see them first on the radar? Or?
Yeah. So here we are. We're in unarmed airplanes flying into Moscow. U.S. airplane hadn't flown into Moscow, a military plane, since World War II. And here we go. We're coming in. And
8 of you, right?
no, it's just the 6 of us.
Okay, 6
Now,
of you.
once we got to the show part of, show tour part of the thing,
Yeah.
the 7 and 8 jet, they
Gotcha.
They were out of the picture. They would go advance and they'd be parked when we got there, because everywhere we flew in as a 6
Yeah.
ship, and so we're flying into Moscow. Boss is struggling with the language barrier of the guys now, and as we're flying in, all of a sudden we see these targets start popping up, and here you got a bunch of show pilots sitting there. We hadn't done any tactics for a year, some guys 2 years, and now all of a sudden these targets start showing up, and I found it so fascinating that within about 10 seconds of these targets popping up, everybody started talking tactical. I got 2 groups, azimuth split 20, Western group, from the nose, it just talking tactically, building the picture, just like you would if you were going to be going into harm's way, and everybody kind of, going, all right, we're going to have to deal with this, and it was just weird. And then they start showing up, and they kind of go, and come up, and now the quandary for the boss is, he wants to come in and do a pass with a smoke on for the people, and then turn out and then come around and do the pop-up break and all, but he doesn't know how to get rid of these guys. 'Cause
How many planes had joined up on you?
I think there were 4.
Were
So
they
there were
armed or were they?
No.
Okay.
They were their show airplanes too.
Gotcha.
But we don't know. We didn't know that. So they show, there's 2 Su-27s and then 2 MiG-29s, one of each on each wing, on the outside of the Delta.
Yeah.
And so you can look over and see these guys, and then we do that low pass, and the boss, he says to us on the back radio, he goes, I'm going to do this pass. Hopefully these guys are going to leave, and it'll allow us to do it. But he goes, if they don't, we'll just swing around, and we'll come and, and do it again, and I'll try to talk to ATC and have them get out of here.
Yeah.
Because they're in our way. And so we come in for a low pass. We're, I don't know, a couple hundred feet maybe. And as we come by, they peel off.
Yeah.
Just like it had been briefed or something. And there was a big, and then we came around and we land. And we landed at a place called Kubinka Airfield, which would be like their Nellis. Nellis is like the jewel of the Air Force military bases, installations. It's just pristine.
Yeah.
Well, theirs is not quite as pristine because it's in the tundra, and so they do these octagonal chunks of concrete. And I thought I blew both tires when I landed because the concrete could be displaced as the earth heaves and falls. So we come around, but this is the field where they actually staged their nuclear bombers that would fly to the U.S. to destroy us if the balloon had gone up. And so now we're landing there. And so it was strange because we all knew Kubinka Airfield. I'd heard it many, many times in my military career up to that point. And here I am, I'm there. And so we land and we park and we get out and then the way it was set up, so they have their airplanes staged behind them, and then we're standing right in front of, just to the left of the number 1 airplane, and it's me, 2 through 6 standing there, and they had, we're kind of at parade rest, and then at the top of the U is a dais set up where they had all the dignitaries and people were making speeches, and they pulled the boss off to say a few words too, and then catty corner to us was the Russian military band, and then they had all their military guys that were the demo team pilots facing us, and so we're standing there. Boss gives his words. The mayor of Moscow says his thing. The U.S. ambassador to the Soviet Union is there. Pretty big deal. He talks, and then the commanding general of the Moscow Air District, he talks, and I mean, there are all these how you doings doing their stuff. And then after they were done, the band was playing stuff, and this crowd, as you can see, they were all behind it still. This is all ceremony stuff, and the crowd is, beyond being held back. But you could see that there's thousands of people. After they were all finished their talk, the boss, the Soviet ambassador, came over, and the boss is about 1 foot behind me and a couple of feet off my left wing here, and the ambassador's right next to him. And as we're standing there, the Soviet pilots came through single file, and they would shake our hand, as they went by. So after about the 3rd guy, I started going, good game, good game, good game. And they'd look at me, and off they went. They're getting this whole thing. So they go through, and then we have all this stuff. Well, after it's all over, the boss just goes, and I saw this many times in my career on the Blues, come here.
Yeah.
What? And he goes, what was that? the ambassador to the Soviet Union is going like, what is that guy doing? We had a dinner hosted by those same pilots at some former czar's palace. It was amazing, this place. And we walk in, and so again, the boss gets taken out of he goes to some greeting line, has to meet all these people. And so now I'm in the lead, and I walk into this thing. The doors to this palace were open, but they had to be like 40 feet tall. The wood was probably 2 feet thick. And you could probably open it with your little finger. It was probably on ball bearings. Just amazing, type of a thing. And as we pass the door, and we're in our service dress blues, we're not in our Blue Angel uniform. As we walk into the thing, there's the food up there and a big dance hall thing looking place. As I walk past the door, this arm comes out, grabs me by the arm, and pulls me. And all of a sudden, I'm in the middle of all these Russian pilots. And, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, going to come to blows. And Doug Thompson was thinking the same thing. A kid from Liberty, Missouri, he's probably had a few scrapes in his life. He dives right in. He's got my back, and he goes right in like, what's going on? But one of the guys who did speak English, he in a very heavy accent, because they didn't speak English very well, but he looks at me and he goes, you, gute game, ha, 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 ha. And everybody started laughing, and we had a great time, and you find out they're just like us.
I can't imagine what that would have been like, right? Like,
well, they were thinking the same thing, and they respected us for it, and we respected them for it. We weren't like trying to go, hey, let's be pen pals.
Right.
Because we didn't know what was going to happen in 2 years. We may go back to the Soviet Union, and we would be mortal enemies again.
Yeah.
Look where we are now. So it was interesting. It's really crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. I think maybe the movie kind of takes a little softer tone on that, right? Of like, we're all best friends now. And,
of course.
But it's like, well, but you guys can still respect each other for what you each do, as
And they were great guys. They were super, super good people, I'm sure. It's just that they were doing their thing. But it is funny, that we did some in the Eastern Bloc countries. Wherever we went, they always had what they called the salt and bread ceremony. And that's where you see us dancing. And I swear I probably ended up marrying the girl that, it was probably some wedding ceremony, as we danced around, I kept trying to get away from her. She'd grab me, I'm like, and we're looking at each other like, how long does this go on? How long are we going to dance for?
Right.
That was crazy.
So let's talk about the opportunity to hop into a MiG. You climb into the back of this. This is a MiG-29, is that right?
Yeah, the MiG-29.
What's going through Larry's mind here as he's
show no fear. I don't. He didn't speak English. The other pilot. When we got there, we had no idea that we would actually be flying. We were hopeful, of course, but when we got there, they took us into another theater. And the commanding general stood up, and in Cyrillic, he gave orders to everybody. And he already had a roster set up. Okay, number one, Greg Wooldridge, you're going to be flying with Vladimir, the number one pilot of the Su-27 team. Ivan, you're going to be flying with this guy. They just had it all set up, and the U.S. guys. We were on one side of the theater. You had the tigers and you had the lions. We didn't mesh at that time. Yeah, and so very cliquish. We sat there, and you could see the Russian pilots. All yes sir, yes sir. Oh, of course, yes sir. And then he ended his thing, and he walked out of the room, and they jumped up and said, "Yeah, screw that. I'm flying with you." And then
why?
Who knows why? Because it's like law of the jungle, I guess. The number one pilot of the MiG-29 team, because I was number 2, he assumed wrongly that I was the number 2 guy in charge. And so he's like, I'm going to fly with the number 2 guy, because, the number 1 was already taken. And so that's just how they did it. And they picked guys. And they had, for each team, they probably had 12 guys, because they had guys that flew, and then they had guys that were standbys or something. They had big teams. And they all wanted to fly. So they would pick you, and of course we're like, oh, okay. And this guy, because he was, a bigwig in the MiG-29 world, and unlike the Blues, these are the best pilots in the Soviet Union. I mean, these guys, if you don't cut the mustard one day, you're not doing it the next. Whereas, I got picked because I had a nice smile, They were very type A, just like us, just like you would imagine. But I remember that guy, he didn't really care about the schedule. He just grabbed me, took me to the paraloft. They fitted me for a G-suit, and we walked out, got in an airplane, and we took off. The brief, not much of a brief. They just kind of said, don't grab this handle. But they're painted just like ours. You could tell.
Yeah.
And when we took off, I could tell instantly that this guy was going to want to show me exactly how capable their airplane was. And so we do a low transition. He sucks the gear up, probably a quarter down the runway, and we get to some airspeed, which I don't know what it is, because it's in kilometers, and then he pulls the nose straight up, and we go, I don't know, maybe up to 4,000 feet or something like that. We go to 0 airspeed. The airplane falls like this. He slowly puts in afterburner, and then we come out, maybe 200 feet above the runway, and off we go. And I see him look back, is this guy crying in his milk yet? And I just go, but I was terrified. But I kept saying to myself, God didn't put me here to die in a MiG-29. That would not be my destiny.
Oh, that's
it couldn't be.
It's the funniest story I've ever heard.
And off we went.
I can imagine in the backseat. Now, in the backseat of a MiG-29, sorry, I don't know anything about the MiG-29, is it dual control?
Yeah, dual controls.
So,
yeah, I flew.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, he let me fly.
Okay.
It doesn't have much gas, so you can't fly very long. You can only fly like 15 minutes.
Right.
Especially when you're trying to impress somebody and you're in afterburner most of the time.
Right.
It affects.
Was there any part of you that was looking at it from the fighter pilot position of, I wonder how it would be if I was in my jet fighting this one?
Of course. You're looking at the when he'd give me the controls, I wanted to know how much rate I could get out of the nose.
And then did you get to fly with them in the back seat too?
Yeah, they flew in our F-18s. I didn't fly anybody.
Oh, you didn't?
No. I can't remember exactly who did, but a bunch of the guys did. I could have, but I was like, I just want to fly a MiG. I flown a Hornet.
Right.
I don't have anything to prove to these guys.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
What else would you say about that trip? Is there any other stories or any other highlights that you wanted to share about and over there? An opportunity, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah! What a thrill of a lifetime! It was it was a great time. People were so generous, and they were so excited to see us. You didn't even know that they were going to be. They would know who you were.
Yeah.
When we went to Bulgaria, they told us, "Don't worry, no one flies today. there will be no aircraft
Oh,
in the entire country.
they just grounded everything.
Grounded everything.
Yeah.
And then when we were driving to the airport, we're in a bus.
Yeah.
We're driving to the airport to do our show. And we have these escort vehicles with us that were Polizei. And so I think there were like 4 of them, 2 in front, 2 behind. And as we're driving down the road, there's nobody on the roads. And we're like, God, this is weird. But then all of a sudden, one car is coming the other way. And so one of those cop cars pulls out and just targets him, just driving. And that you see that car going into a ditch. And we pass it by. His family's in a ditch, because they're like, no, what are you thinking driving when these guys are on the road?
Yeah.
And we're like, please don't kill people.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that there was a lot of pressure put on those countries that were hosting too, because here they're welcoming the United States into their country, right? And if anything were to happen to any of those pilots or any of those airplanes.
One story I want to tell, and this is a personal one. One of my closest friends in the world is a guy named John Cornarens, just one of the greatest guys in history. And he works in Hollywood. So he was on the film crew. He was he was Rob's right-hand man, did everything, stage managed, did all kinds of stuff. And I could tell right off the bat, this is one cool guy. And I wanted to get to know him, because tired of hanging around pilots telling me that they're pilots all the time, We had to be in like Sweden or Finland somewhere. And they'd been filming us for about 3 months now, getting all this back stuff for us. And so I go up to John, when we're kind of standing around, I go, hey, John, what are you doing tonight? You and I should go grab something to eat. And he looks at me, he goes, no, walks away. I just got jilted. What the heck? And I'm like, what did I do to this guy? So now all of a sudden I'm like, kind of like, wow, what's the deal? And so then I track him down and I go, hey man, we should go do something. He goes, no. And I'm like, did I do something to you? Is there a problem with us? He goes, no. And I go, why don't you want to do something? I go, I'm tired of all these guys that I already know. He goes, well, Rob said, don't mix with the talent. Like I'm some actor. And I'm like, no, dude, that's not happening. I go, oh, come on. I'm nothing special. So then after that, we hung out a lot, and he became one of my closest friends and still is. And,
that's awesome.
But it was so funny.
No. The talent. That's right. A movie star now. Yeah, movie star.
Quite the deal.
Well, do you have time to do a quick little rapid fire?
Yeah.
These are questions that people sent in after your last episode, okay? These are going to be easy ones, but I just want to follow up for some of the people who made a comment here onto YouTube. The first one was, which T2/A4 training base were you winged at?
VT-25 was the squadron in Beeville, Texas. T2 was VT-26. A4 squadron was VT-25 at NAS Chase Field in Beeville, Texas.
Nice. Which A6 squadron were you in?
So I was started out in VA-42, the Green Ponds, as a student. Then I went to my fleet squadron of VA-85, the Black Falcons.
Nice.
And then I went back to VA-42 as an instructor pilot. And then I went to VFA-106 as an instructor. And then I went to the Blues.
Do you get a patch for every squadron that you're in? And then you got your leather jacket at home with all your patches that you put on?
That's a thing. But that's not my
thing. Say no more.
But that's not my thing.
Say no more.
I didn't really want to walk around looking like a steamer trunk from the 1920s. You know me well enough. That's not my gig.
Well, you had to change out of your Blue Angel outfit earlier today that you were walking around
underneath. I just have the short pants and short shirt version under.
You have the Blue Angel shorts.
Yeah.
The short.
It's actually tattooed to my body.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's a good question. But no, I didn't. I didn't do that personally.
I added on about the whole pouches. Yeah,
Oh,
he just wanted to know which squadrons. Favorite airplane of the modern fighters, F-15, 16, 18. I guess part of that is, what does a pilot think of when someone says, "What's your favorite airplane?" Right?
yeah,
So-
I get that a lot.
Because we know it was the A4 was of all the ones that you flew, but of the modern fighters, someone wanted to know which one.
Well, I was blessed to fly all of them because it was just because of timing for me. But let me set the stage. When you're by yourself in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of a thunderstorm, marshaling for a night carrier landing, when you were in an F-18 and the displays that are given to you, you felt like you had a pretty decent shot at making it through this, because you are nervous. I wouldn't say scared, but you're nervous. And that airplane has a special place in my heart. And then plus, at the time, it was the most maneuverable of the airplanes. It's really close between an F-16 and an F-18. The F-15, quite capable, but at the time, the F-18 and the F-16, the radars had already caught up to the F-15 radar. So you had a bigger target, that wasn't any more capable than the Hornet or the Viper.
Okay.
So it would be the F-18.
Awesome. Is landing in Sitka, Alaska anything like landing on an aircraft carrier?
Yeah. You're aware that there's water on each end, and it's funny because when they talk about threats, you're like, yeah, don't land short, don't land long. You have to be on your top of your game. And so, it is.
Okay. The last question, if you can tell us, did you ever see any type of UAPs, which is the new term for UFOs?
I'm not aware of that term. Again, I've been asked that a lot. I personally never have, but I can tell you this: the person that was on Nightline or whatever it was that was the Navy pilot, Dave Fravor, is a very, very good friend of mine. He's not a nut. He is as solid individual as I've ever known in the Navy. And so when he says he saw something that wasn't explainable, I would not dispute it.
Yeah.
But I personally haven't seen anything strange. And oh, by the way, I've never seen the green flash.
I haven't either.
I hear people say, oh, yeah,
I haven't either. Now everyone's going to start going and Googling what is the green flash. So go and Google the green flash. Neither of us have ever seen it.
Yeah. But I've seen a lot of sunsets.
But I look every time.
Yeah.
Every time, which is probably bad for me.
Yeah. Well, you're young still.
All right. Well, again, thank you. Now, you can't leave here, though, because we've got our trusty pen. Yeah. Because, okay, listen, so first of all, the last episode we did gave away just that badass
Oh,
one.
man, that was good.
Which I heard everyone, in fact, one of our pilots come up and said, I went out and looked to try to buy one of those because I just want the Blue Angel helmet that it comes in.
I'd never seen it before.
That case. So congratulations to Corvette Nut. And I think I even sent you that. I even sent you that
You
picture.
did.
So for this episode, number one, we're gonna have the Larry Packer autographed badass picture of the Blue Angel 4-ship.
All right.
I'm gonna have you sign.
Cool.
You want to sign in the front or the back of that?
Whatever you want me to.
Okay, I'm gonna let you choose. And then of course, if anyone
Most people want the front.
if anyone even has a DVD player,
See, now that's just hate.
This is brand new, though. I just took the packaging off. I had to search far and wide for a DVD of Around the World at the Speed of Sound. This is the special edition with 30 minutes of bonus stuff that no one has ever seen. So I'm going to have you sign the inside of this case.
Okay.
Okay. And then
Rob on this Around the World at the Speed of Sound, he actually made shirts like from the 80s when you would go to a concert. And it would, it'd have the places that the concert
Yeah.
was at. So
Yeah.
it has around the world the speed of sound. It's got all the
Awesome.
places. So yeah,
Awesome.
that's cool.
Yeah, so we're going to pull off the liner. You're going to write a little secret message for someone, and then
Okay.
we'll have you sign that. And I think what we'll do is we're going to have you choose who's going to get this.
Oh no! Don't
Yeah.
put me in that
No,
position.
no, we are, and it'll just be 1 week after this publishes. You'll just go into the comments, and you're just going to get to choose. Okay. And then we're gonna send that off. Some great stuff to give to your kids or kids.
Well, I already noticed that my brother and my son
Oh yeah.
both made comments on this stuff.
Yeah.
Both doing me dirty on that.
Neither of which are eligible for any of the Larry Packer Sway.
Oh, okay.
neither
I'm
of
glad you said that.
neither of which are eligible. But yes, they both went on there and said, "Hey, he didn't tell this story." But I'm like, I'm sure Larry filters a little bit of the story.
Yeah.
So, thank you again. God, I just feel like I keep saying that. I think this is goodbye, but you never know if there's going to be a part 3.
I'm always available.
And I love it. Well, thank you for taking the time again.
Thank you for
for
having
your
me.
work with Around the World at the Speed of Sound. And thank you, everyone, for watching. We appreciate you. Check out the podcast, like, share, subscribe, all of that stuff. Until next time, Larry's going to get signing, and we're going to sign out.